Alright, what's going on, everybody? This is just a video taking a look at the drift trike I just made. No welds at all, 100% bolt together. And I'm just making this because I keep seeing people say, oh, I wish I could make a drift trike if I had a welder. Well, I don't have a welder either, but I made a pretty solid one. Alright, so the frame of this thing is just off of an old 20-inch kids BMX bike. Pretty crappy bike, but it works for this situation. I took this idea up here by the head tube from a guy named Smithers on YouTube. He builds a lot of these things. And what I did is I just cut a V in the top tube there, bent it down, and cut this to shape around the other tube and just riveted it in. I feel like that adds a lot of strength up here. Forks are just off of the same bike. And how I got this finish, I just took a angle grinder with the grinding blade on it, went up and down until all the paint came off, and then just put a clear coat on top so it won't rust. We also got here on the frame on both sides a Taylor Drift decal. Shout out to Taylor Swift. Alright, so you can see a little piece of sheet metal sticking out here, also in the back. That's just covering those two tubes that hold the rear tire in place. I also just riveted them on the sides. Stole this from the other video as well. On top of that, I mounted the seat, also riveted in. This is a piece of aluminum sheet metal that I had laying around. And what I did is I cut a pattern out of it and just bent these two edge pieces up to the back and riveted them in place, and then just sanded it. My thumb making a whole bunch of circles made that look pretty cool. I'm really happy with how the seat turned out. It's rock solid and it's pretty comfy actually for just being a piece of metal. Alright, now the rear axle was probably the biggest problem that I had doing this, because I needed it to be really rigid and not bend, but also have threads at the end. So I tried out some 5/8 threaded rod first, but that was just way too bendy. So what I wound up doing, you can't see it because of the wheels on there, but I took a piece of black pipe that you can get at Home Depot or any home improvement stores for doing gas, and I got two of the end caps, drilled 1/2-inch holes in the ends, and then put a piece of threaded rod, 1/2-inch threaded rod all the way through, and tightened them down at the ends. So what you really have is basically a real sturdy tube with threads at the end. Alright, for the wheels right now, they're pretty low tech, at least for the time being. What I've got here is a 6-inch piece of PVC joiner, it's called. It's for joining two 6-inch pipes together, so that means it's bigger than 6 inches for one, and also it's got a lip in the middle that the PVC, when it slides in, can catch on and stop. So what I did is I just sandwiched two pieces of plywood on either side, and then one on the end. Just bolted it in on both sides. You can see over there, that's the one that's up against that middle ridge. And on the two end pieces of wood, I just countersunk bearings that I got off Amazon. They're 1 1/8 wide with a 1/2-inch center bore, so it fits perfect over that 1/2-inch threaded rod. So when I first did this, I didn't have this brace bar here, just had the axle, and I'll show you how that's attached if I just flip this thing over. That is attached here with a piece of 1/8-inch sheet metal that I cut into a rectangle and left two tabs on the end. So that's bolted straight to the frame of the bike. And then the black pipe is pushed up against that with two U-bolts holding it into there. And I don't know how well you can see it here, but in the dropouts that the rear axle fit into of the original bike, I cut a V. So these U-bolts clamp this black pipe up against the frame of the bike so it can't go anywhere. So even with this black pipe clamped as tightly as I can get it against the frame of the bike, these two tubes that hold the rear axle would flex a whole ton. Whole frame of the bike would be able to move side to side like that as he rode it. So what I did is I picked up this tube from Home Depot. It's a 1/2-inch and it's hollow, and I just bent it at either end, bent it in the middle, and this is held in place with sheet metal end screws to the frame down there and there, so this prevents these from flexing relative to each other and relative to the axle. So that stiffened it up a ton, and then I added this, which didn't do too much, but it did help a little bit, just to get rid of some of the residual wiggliness of the frame, I guess. So definitely have to brace it if you build one of these without welds. Alright, finally we just got the front of the bike. We got the bars. These are off of a mountain bike, not the original BMX. Just got a reflector on the front so it's legal. Chop this front brake lever down, because I just can't stand long brake levers, so you could just do it with one finger. I got the front brake, the pegs. The pegs were actually a pain in the ass to put on. I just got them drilled through this piece of metal here, because they wouldn't actually thread onto the end of the axle. The axle's not long enough, even though it's a BMX bike, it's a kid's bike, so I guess they don't expect pegs going on it. Anyway, the pegs are on now, they're solid. I've also got in the brake lever this switch, which I don't know if anything's going to happen with that, but it's kind of cool. When you open the brake lever, it actually closes the switch. That wire comes down under here, under the seat, and right now it's just clipped in place back here, but I might put a brake light on it just for fun. I thought that would be kind of cool. And then we've also got one of these cheapo bike computers. Got this for like under 10 bucks on Amazon. You know the deal with the magnet and the sensor on the fork that just checks your speed. So that's kind of cool. I'm curious as to how fast this thing can go. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you got any questions about how I did anything on this drift trike, just feel free to ask me or send me a message. And yeah, hopefully you guys will be inspired to build something like this yourself. It was a lot of fun.